If you're a driven, active person who wants to reach and pursue a higher quality life with some ambition, then guess what? This podcast is for you. This is the Driven Athlete Podcast. This is a super interesting thing, and I've been thinking about just changing perspectives, because ultimately we know that our perspectives and beliefs shape our world and the way we live, act, the values we put on things, and that ultimately shapes what we prioritize. Like what we value and what we believe is important, that's what we prioritize. So very often we hear like, I don't have time to work out, right? It just means that no one's really busy. Everybody's busy, but nobody's actually busy. As in, if something's very important on their schedule, they'll fit it in, right? They'll make it happen, right? Imagine if somebody was like, hey, I'm going to give you a Ferrari. I know you're really busy and you can't really go out, like you can't make it to a certain place, but I'm going to give you the keys to my Ferrari. Can you meet me at this place an hour away from here? And like at 3:00, but like you would make that happen, right? It's because you see the value in it, and you also have a high priority for that thing. Does that make sense? So let's consider that with this. An interesting question was raised to me about perspective on this, or like, what are we valuing and prioritizing? Would you trade $1 million to not be in a bad mood? Would you do that, right? Depends on how bad the mood is, right? Would you trade $10 million to not be able to walk again? I think a lot of people would say no. Would you trade $100 million, like $100 million cash, not taxable? Would you trade $100 million to not be able to walk again? For me, I would probably say no, right? Would you trade $1 billion to not be able to wake up in a week from now? It's like you're dead. Probably not, right? So that means that then we value being in a bad mood. Like, would you trade $1 million to not be in a bad mood? That means that we're prioritizing. I would be in a bad mood to not give up $1 million. I'm not going to pay somebody $1 million to not be in a bad mood. Does that make sense? Or vice versa, right? Of course, we would trade $1 million. Like someone would give us, I'll give you $1 million to now just not be in a bad mood, right? You could probably make it happen. Would you trade $1 billion to not wake up 7 days from now? Like, this is your last week to live, but I'll give you $1 billion. Most people would probably say no, right? So that means then we value our life more than $1 billion. What is it that we're trading then in order to make monetarily a significant amount of money for our livelihood, right? What is it that we're trading in its place? And usually we're trading our health, our nutrition habits, sleep, and in my opinion, relationships. The relationships are with our family, our kids, our spouse, our friends, family, whatever, right? I've met a lot of very successful individuals, and their families are their family relationships aren't as great as they could be. It seems like the main earners in the family have traded time and value of prioritization time towards their away from their family, towards making their job, making an income, right? For money. It means they're valuing that more than what they value their relationships. It's just very interesting to have perspective on that. I don't think anybody would trade $1 billion to be like, this is your last week to live. You're going to die next Tuesday. Yeah, that's the bottom line. But I'll give you $1 billion, right? I don't think anybody would do that. Okay, that means that we do value our life more than we value that money. All right, are we putting that into practice? Here's the bottom line. If somebody wants to get out of pain, all right, we see patients that are in pain. And a lot of times I hear them say, I just want this to go away. I want my back pain to just go away. I just want to go away. I'm done. This is very frustrating. Totally. It's been going on for 6 months. At this point, we can assume it's not just going to magically disappear, right? Because things stick around, and it can be lingering for a while, right? If we're not 16 years old or 21 years old anymore, things don't just get better spontaneously, especially if the things that we're doing consistently kind of contribute to the pain experience that we're having. And one of those being our relationships and also our perspective on pain, the mental game, right? There's a psychological component, which we've dove in deep in the past. All those things kind of contribute to pain being maintained, the pain experience that we're experiencing, maintaining. So if we want to get out of pain, we need to take necessary steps to make that happen. All right. Are you laying out is a person laying out the necessary habits and steps to find the improvement they're looking for? There's a yes or no answer, right? If we're not prioritizing those things, then the person is not going to see the changes they're looking for. Something needs to change. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Something needs to change for the changes to happen that we want, right? Are we intervening and applying the things in place that we know will lead the best chances, likelihood of the outcomes we're looking for those to occur? Are we laying out the things we need to do to make that happen? If we're not, that means we're not prioritizing. If that's the case, then in my opinion, I live my life, you can't complain. If a person is not taking action with the habits necessary that we know, the interventions and habits that are going to make the change we're looking for, if those aren't purposely being implemented, that tells me as a person, as a clinician, that a person is not prioritizing their issues they're having enough to make changes that they need to make the ultimate outcome they're looking for happen. Then if that's the case, and this is a rule for my life, that just applied to me. This is Dr. Kyle talking to Dr. Kyle. You can't complain. You can't complain if you're not taking action, because ultimately it does fall on us, right? It's another perspective and mindset shift I've had with extreme ownership. That book with Jocko Willink that I've cited before, I really am an advocate for, just taking full self-responsibility for like where your life is at. It's a hard pill to swallow. But anyway, so with all that being said, would you be willing to trade $100 million to be in severe physical deconditioning and poor physical shape? Probably not, for the rest of your life. That means then that a person, if that's the answer, that means that a person values their physical health more than $100 million. So then are we prioritizing our actions that are going to lead to the changes we're looking for, or the type of lifestyle that we want that's going to lead to the changes that we need, right? If that's the case, then we need to take purposeful action. And if it takes some expert guidance to be like, what is it that I'm doing wrong here? A lot of it's perspective, and a lot of it is just accountability to intervene with the right things consistently, right? So take a deep dive. Where is my time going? Where is it that I don't have time at the end of the day? What is it that I'm doing that's taking up my time for me at the end of the day, saying I'm very tired and I have no time. I don't know what I did today, but I feel like I got nothing done and I have no time, right? Like I have no more room of time on my schedule. Let's do a time audit and go back at 15-minute intervals for the entire 24-hour day. Where exactly is the time going? Things aren't just going to show up for no reason, right? So we need to take purposeful action and purposeful intervention and some deep dive and perspective reframe. Where's my time going then? Can any of that be shifted? And I'm very confident very often the answer is yes. Things can be shifted, and that means that we're just not prioritizing. Some of it is procrastination for a fear of failure, understandable, and some of it just the lack of know-how, right? I don't have the wherewithal to know of what to do, totally understandable. And if somebody's battling pain, as an example, because that's what we deal with all the time, we have to intervene with the right things a little bit over a long enough time horizon. And if we're confident that these specific interventions will lead to the outcome that we're looking for, barring that we don't increase irritability or increase pain generating activities that are stressing the joint or whatever is the issue, the back pain, the neck pain, whatever, we definitely have to eliminate those stressor things, actions and activities, and implement the right things that we know will lead to improvement of symptoms over a long enough time horizon. I'm very confident people's pain and issues will resolve. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a thriving practice, right? We wouldn't have people calling us to have help, right? Or word of mouth, people recommending us to other people, right? We're not trying to elevate ourselves. All I'm saying is like, it works. Please let us help you, right? That's the message I'm trying to convey here with that. But anyway, with the self-responsibility and extreme ownership, Jocko Willink is he's a ex-Navy SEAL, and he's a business consultant now. He wrote a lot of books, and one of them was Extreme Ownership. And the main message with that book is self-responsibility. Ultimately, a person's current life situation is a string of all of their decisions they have made up to this point that ultimately does fall on them. Even bad things do happen. And I have another philosophy on that too, with stoicism, as in like things actually aren't bad or good. They just are events. And then we assign on that event whether or not it's good or bad. We'll leave that for another discussion another time. But things unforeseen that impact our trajectory in life happen, and it can affect us monetarily, and it can affect us physically, totally. Outside of extreme situations of those, if someone's life is in a certain situation, it ultimately does come down to a string of decisions over a long period of time that leads them to their current situation now. and having a sense of self-responsibility or just extreme ownership that I'm a huge advocate and fan of myself. I try to live my life like I'm talking to myself, right? That means that it can be changed, right? It's a very tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. It's like I've talked with, I'm not tactful. I'm not a mental health coach, counselor. This is not my thing. I'm just saying for this, it's just an interesting mindset that a person can adopt, that I've tried to adopt for my own life, of self-responsibility. And I am my own, I had to sleep in my bed the way I make it. And I am my own result of my own decisions over a long period of time. So if it's not in a situation, if your life is not a situation you want it to be in, or you want to make changes, ultimately it does come down to that person. And intervening with the right things over a long enough time horizon, if we are confident those are the right things, will lead to the change they're looking for. It's just a matter of intervening and implementing them appropriately. And if a person comes to me and they say they don't have time, first thing I'm going to look at is, where's your time going then? And then what else that indicates to me what are we prioritizing then to fill the schedule? Oftentimes, like unwinding time at the evening is understandable. I do that, of like watching TV or Netflix or like social media, whatever, the doom scrolling. By no means am I a perfect person. I'm just saying I'm trying to reflect consistently. Where's my time going, and where can I implement and intervene better and prioritize? And is there things that I want to be able to do that I'm not doing currently, or my life situation isn't the way I want it to be? Where then can I intervene and implement the right things, right? And extreme ownership of my life is I'm owning my own life. My life ultimately is in my own hands, and it's under my control. I like that mindset, because that means that I can dictate what trajectory in life, just direction I'm going, and I can intervene with the right things. So if it's like, I'm not in the shape that I want to be in, all right, what do you think it would take to get in good shape? What a person would call good shape. Usually what that means is a low body fat percentage, increased muscle density and tone. It's really strength. Tone just comes from a low fat body fat density percentage. So lower body fat percentage, increased muscle strength. That's going to be more evident of muscle tone, right? Good cardiovascular, cardiopulmonary, and cardiovascular efficiency and strength, and good nutritional habits, right? Like I'm eating well. All right, cool. I feel better, right? It's usually the thing, like I feel strong, I feel good, more energy. What things would lead to that outcome? Enough sleep, appropriate deep sleep, solid nutritional habits, and having enough protein in the diet. And usually that means avoiding processed carbs and refined sugar and excessive inflammatory things in food that we know exist. Like we've heard seed oils is very common with that. And high processed foods. Okay, so we got sleep good. We got nutrition's pretty solid with enough protein. Implementing some exercise. We have to have some kind of physical exercise. The research is out there, like this is across the board. It helps with so many things: memory, mood, depression, mental health, and physical health, of course. Bone mineral density, tendon tensile strength, muscle strength, overall physicality, and better endurance and stamina of life, right? Being able to like run around Publix, and then you're chasing your kids and going to the beach and hanging out and playing with, like, exercising with your friends, going to dinner dates or whatever. At the end of the day, it's like, I'm exhausted, right? That happens. These things so far will improve that. So physical exercise, we have to stress the cardiovascular system as well, because that's going to help improve the efficiency, the output and tidal volume and push of all the blood circulation. And it's going to make the heart stronger and the blood vessels that carry that blood more resilient and efficient. And the pulmonary system, the pulmonary, your lungs, those get more efficient with diffusing oxygen and oxygenating the blood. All right. So the tissues can get more oxygen and nutrients, right? That would be a benefit, right? All right. So next thing is the mental health, I think, is way more of a priority in my list that I've otherwise would have thought in the past. I used to think that physical health was the number one top priority that indicates a high quality life. And I've changed my mindset on that. Actually, I think it's mental health. There's plenty of people that are physically debilitated that would subjectively report that they have a high joy in their life. And that's the mental component, the mental health, the psychological component. And with that, usually amplifies relationships that are the most meaningful and perspective and joy in life, right? So we can't neglect the mental health component. I've just really shifted on that in myself. I've also always said the most valuable commodity on earth is time. And then I went a little deeper. It's not true. I've met people that are terminally ill or have lost loved ones and spouses, and they're at the tail end of their life, and they're not in a good physical health condition, and their mental health isn't also great. They have all the time in the world. And I've heard from those individuals that they're ready to go. Like, I'm good. I'm done. Like, I just don't even want to be here anymore, right? So they have all the time in the world, but that's not valuable to them right now. All right, so then time itself might not be the most valuable commodity on earth. It could be if it's utilized well, and that's where I was going to go next. Time while you're healthy might be the most valuable commodity on earth. I've talked with a lot of individuals that are on the tail end of their life again, and they're somewhat healthy, and they have a lot of time on their hands, and they still reminisce about when they were more youthful. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Let's take it one step further. Time while you're healthy, while you're youthful, is the most valuable commodity on earth. That's my opinion, and I'm a fervent believer of that. So time while you're healthy and youthful, where you can pick up and just go to the beach. You can pick up and just go run around with your family and just do stuff. You can just play a random pickup soccer game and be somewhat physically capable, and just pick it up and go, right? And it's not going to wipe you out. Youthful, health, and a lot of time for that. We can purposely set ourselves up for success consistently over a long enough time, over a longevity, to have more youthful, healthy time. We have to implement the right things. And my question would be then, what are we prioritizing? Is it towards that, or is it towards something else? And if you're not in a position that you feel comfortable with, that you like or would admit, then that means just got to implement. We got to intervene with the right things. And that means we got to prioritize and mindset shift on the things that are, and then implement that in your schedule, which comes down to prioritization. And if we're not prioritizing, then we're never going to put it in our schedule, our life, right? I've also had conversations with people that have had cancer or terminally ill issues. And not uncommon, if they come out the other side of that illness and they are restored, their mindset on life is way different than it was prior, from what they've told me. And I've also heard a rhetoric from them that when they had cancer or they were terminally ill and they got out of it, that them having cancer was the best thing that ever happened to them. How is that possible? It's a mindset shift and a priority shift of what they value. Their perspectives and beliefs have now changed from this significant life event. And they now are prioritizing different things and are looking at things differently. It's a perspective change, right? So I'm trying to can I heed this advice and apply it to my own life? What is it that I'm prioritizing? And if I look at my phone for my screen time, what would that say? Would that say something different? What does my nutritional habits look like for longevity? I mean, be in moderation. I'm a moderation dude for sure. I'm not going to be stringent and just deprive myself. But there are definitely restraints that need to happen, and consistency from a nutritional standpoint. Like I can't get hammered every night. My kids probably wouldn't appreciate that. I got to be a father, right? And a present husband for my wife, and an involved father. I'd really enjoy that. I love being with my kids. It brings a lot of joy. How can I amplify that then? And am I setting myself up for success for as long enough time as I possibly can control? Like, I can intervene as best as possible. I can't control everything, but I can dictate my choices, and also purposely work through mindset and perspective efforts to maybe have the best, most joyful and advantageous perspective for the things that matter most. And purposeful intervention and just purposeful action, reflection. I think those things all are only going to make that improved and amplified, right? So I would investigate and audit a person that comes to me and says, I'm battling pain, I'm not in good shape, my life sucks, right? I have that very often. And I'm just here being a coach and a sports physical therapist. My goal is to get people out of pain for sure. And if I can positively impact them in a different direction when they're open to it, totally. If they bring up conversations, I'm always ready for a deep philosophical conversation at my wife's detriment. She doesn't, it's funny. We'll be like getting ready for bed. I'm like, you know what I thought about today for this perspective shift? And they're like, I'm not in the mindset right now. But anyway, like I'm gonna try to help and coach. Sometimes with the right people, I put my coach hat on, right? And my tone of voice and my approach to stuff and conversations shifts with different people at different times. And I can, I want to influence and impact people positively as I can, right? But anyway, I would take a deep dive and audit, where is my time going? What is it that I'm spending a lot of time on? That would indicate what the priority would be for that person. Is that the priority that a person would want? Reflect on that, yes or no. If the answer is no, what is it that this person does want to prioritize and does want to value the most? What actions would be able to be implemented that would push a person towards that priority, right? That's what I would reflect on and shift. Okay, what actions then done habitually, lifestyle habits, if done of a long enough time horizon, would reach the outcome you're looking for? If we're confident that we know that adding some appropriate physical exercise would probably lead to physical changes that we're looking for. It's also going to help mood and memory and vitality and resiliency, totally. Nutritional habits, what things do you think will help go that direction of being physically in a better condition? Probably lean, high protein diet, limiting processed carbs, limiting refined sugar, limiting alcohol, probably not smoking, and eating an appropriate volume portion size consistently. Okay, got that solved. Getting enough quality sleep consistently, that's also going to be super helpful. Great. And then prioritizing effort on deepening and improving relationships with the people that mean the most. What actions would probably enhance those relationships? We've got to put the time in first, purposeful time, and deep conversations, being vulnerable, being empathetic, all those. I'm not an expert in that by any means. That's things I've heard, so I'm not making suggestions on those. But we know that putting effort towards those relationships is going to amplify those, and self-reflection would only help that direction, right? And then the last thing that I would reflect on is, would I trade for the direction that I'm going in my life? What does this look like 20 years from now? If somebody would say, I'll give you $1 billion, I'll give you $1 billion if you stay on that same path, at the expense of poor relationships with people that mean the most, poor physical health, poor mental health, but you'll be rich. Would you trade that? That's just something to reflect on. And I'm reflecting on that today too. But from a physical standpoint, and if somebody's battling pain, if you have any questions, we're always open to having conversations, at least shed some light and some clarity and some answers on maybe the best direction to go is. So don't hesitate to reach out. We're always open to having conversations, and you can hit me up directly, 561-899-8725 in my clinic in West Palm Beach. That's the best probably way to reach out. So we'd love to chat with you if you have any questions.